Hi there, welcome to Turtle Island Soap Opera. Today I'm going to do a reading for Scorpio energy. And like usual, we're going to do 2 rows. And the top row I refer to as high vibe Scorpio. The bottom row, a more worldly, shadowy Scorpio. We all have our dualistic nature of free will, and we have to make decisions in our life. And we kind of have to battle within ourselves because we have our dualistic nature. In our more high vibrational nature, we might want to live life a little different, have a little more hope and faith and belief in ourselves and in our dreams. But in order to do that, the bottom row can just represent our comfort zone. And we kind of don't like to step out of our comfort zone. And also we might have different people in our life. Some people in our life would like it if we were more inspired to align with our helpful, believing, loving nature. But then we might have people in our life that would like us not to do that. And, we might align with those people maybe more in our fear or our indulgence or living life more from our ego or codependency or something. And, we have to make these choices in life, and kind of what we choose to align with within ourselves is going to kind of affect who we choose to align with outside of ourselves, I guess, is one way to look at it. Scorpio is emotional water sign energy, but people have the free will to reject aligning with their high vibrational Scorpio nature. People who don't really want to connect even in with themselves emotionally, to get to know themselves. They're not going to have much interest maybe in getting to know other people if they don't even connect in with themselves emotionally. So shadowy Scorpio can be people who are more emotionally shallow and superficial. They're not very emotionally deep or connected emotionally with themselves and don't really care to be with other people. And shadowy Scorpio, which anyone can harness. This might be a story of what could be going on with people who are a Scorpio sun sign or have significant Scorpio placements. But we all tap into Scorpio. So from that perspective, high vibe Scorpio energy wants to move forward because high vibe energy wants to move forward. High vibe energy does not want to keep repeating a pattern of the past. Let's take the lessons we've learned from that phase of life and then let's move forward. At the big picture, we refer to high vibe energy as like God and shadowy energy more like the devil. The devil doesn't want to give birth to new things. God does want to give birth to new things. Let's take the lessons we've learned. Let's be inspired to work through our inner conflict and our immature nature, our codependent nature, and the part of us that would like to keep repeating that old pattern. If we keep repeating the old pattern, we're never going to give birth to anything new. And it's kind of like, I always sometimes like to equate it to being an apple tree, right? An apple tree doesn't have any choice. It's kind of built in its DNA. There might be periods, you could look at the Seven of Pentacles maybe as a period of rest. An apple tree isn't growing constantly. It grows and then it'll put a lot of its focus and energy into kind of like stabilizing at that stage of life. And then it's just built into it that it's like, oh, we're growing now. And then it grows. And then it gets to that next stage of life and it invests time and energy to grow and heal or whatever at that stage of life. But an apple tree has no free will in the matter. But we're not an apple tree, but we're kind of like an apple tree where we have the capability within us to keep growing and maturing ourselves to our full potential. Kind of like an apple tree could go to 35 feet and have 1,000 apples. But as a human being, we could stop at 10 feet. I make 100 apples. I'm good. And some other people in the world who kind of kept growing and maturing themselves could communicate with some people who are stopping at 10 feet and 100 apples, wanting to inspire those people. Why don't you kind of invest some work and effort into facing some of your fears and insecurities or whatever? It does take work and effort, and as a human being, we have to get out of our ego. The Seven of Wands is Leo energy, we either harness a more shadowy Leo energy, which can be fear, insecurity, immaturity, don't want to put in work and effort, want reward without work and effort, think we can cheat the justice system or something, or manipulate. And high vibe Leo is, I am inspired to grow and heal and mature myself. I am going to grow to the next potential. Next, I'm going to keep growing and maturing. So, but as human beings, we don't have to do that if we don't want to. We can say, no, I'm good. I'm going to stay right here. And we all could know some people, and we've been at different stages of our life, excuse me, where some people were ready to move forward, maybe being a little more bold, brave, confident within themselves. And we were like, oh my gosh, yeah, I'm not ready for that. So we kind of stayed at a certain stage of life. And then sometimes we were the ones who were ready to kind of move forward in life differently. And some of the people in our life were like, yeah, no, I'm not ready to do that. I'm going to keep doing this. And as human beings, we have the free will to keep growing and healing and maturing ourselves and facing our fears, or growing up and maturing ourselves and quit indulging our more immature nature, right? And high vibe Leo, and right next to it we have the Knight of Wands. The Knight of Wands in high vibe is about learning lessons in life and being inspired to want to kind of not let these things manipulate us. But from the 1 wand to the 7 of wands, we have to work through the 6 of wands, and the 6 of wands can be what we view as kind of victorious and successful, and what we're kind of driven and motivated at any time in our life about. And also high vibe Leo is kind of like being, coming into your own, feeling more comfortable within yourself to kind of live your more authentic life, come out from behind your ego. And that's all a process of becoming. And some people aren't ready to live their more authentic life. And so then they might go back and repeat an old pattern to, because they have more lessons to learn, until I am ready to feel more comfortable in my own skin and kind of even clear about what my own truth is. Which is kind of interesting because the 7 of Pentacles down here is Taurus energy, which is kind of our philosophy of life. And in a more worldly, egoic, shadowy way, we might make our life more about living life like other people live their life, or how our friends or family live their life. Maybe making our life more about conforming to the world. High vibe Leo would be, I am willing to live my more authentic life. Do I still want to have friends and family and my job and basically kind of do what I do in my normal life? It's just not maybe feeling more comfortable within myself to live my more authentic truth, and not maybe so much up in my head about, oh, well, what are people gonna think, or what are people, it's like high vibe energy is about being independent of your more shadowy nature, pride, ego, codependency, insecurity, codependency, trying to get other people to like you, because you can see where that can be a form of manipulation. When we do it and when we've done it, we don't think of it as manipulation, but a lot of the early years of our life, it could be like, I've got to fit in with the world, and I might like to wear a pink shirt every day. I might like to wear pigtails. I might like to wear my hair long. I might like to wear my hair short. But what is going on in the world at that point in time? And if no one else in the world is kind of really doing that, some people then might not do that. So shadowy energy, and especially Taurus, could maybe be more about conforming to the world. And high vibe Leo could be where you stand out a little bit, not trying to stand out, but you're not kind of conforming to the world. So just by living your authentic life, and people can look like completely normal human beings, not being contrarian or wearing anything weird or different, but they could seem like people who do seem more comfortable within themselves, and not maybe kind of trying to people please people. Like, well, I need to act like this, and I need to say this, and I need to do that. Just being more authentic, and it would be, I treat other people the way I like to be treated. And that's the Page of Swords in high vibe. I'm just making small gestures and communications with people from my truth. And in high vibe, the Page of Swords would be Libra, Aquarius, and Gemini. In my Gemini, I'm aligned with my more hopeful, believing, loving nature. In my Libra, I'm balanced within myself and maintaining balance within myself, not looking to other people to help me maintain balance within myself. I work to maintain balance within myself, not to be going like this and driving my life off into the ditch and emotionally being up and down. I work to maintain balance within myself. High vibe Leo, I offer love to my own inner child nature, being like a good mother, father, coach voice to myself, so that my more hopeful, believing, authentic, loving nature, which in my Aquarius energy of the 3 air signs, I have a dream. And my dream is to move forward in life, continue to heal and grow and mature myself, and I'm inspired to communicate truth and love to other people, because high vibe is motivated by truth and love, to have other people move forward with me in that energy. But there can be other people in the world who are still more about maybe wearing a false mask and conforming to the world, and maybe not as comfortable within themselves, and used to kind of people playing these games while, maybe to try to get other people to view them a certain way or to like them. And other people can like other people playing those games because they play those games too. And then it can be to try to manipulate and control people. And, well, maybe kind of like, well, what kind of status and ego and image? And what are you wearing? And what do you drive? And where do you live? And, blah, and then I'll decide if I want to invest in you, because a more worldly, shadowy energy, it can be more worldly, egoic based. Instead of, I don't really care what you wear, what you drive, what you look like, where you live, how much money you make. I'm looking to find people who are authentic. That's also high vibe Leo. And people who are who they say they are. They're truthful and authentic and just and fair. Not trying to manipulate me, not trying to control me, not in their ego. Not like I should think I'm better than them, or they should think they're better than me. Just that we can get along. We can enjoy each other's company. We can be encouraging, supportive people to each other. And some other people could be like, oh my gosh, we certainly can't do that. Let's go look some at the bottom row. We have the 4 of Swords, the Hermit, the Hangman, the Ace of Cups, the 2 of Pentacles, and the Knight of Cups. Well, some people in the 4 of Swords, well, kind of the bottom row can be people's fears, and that can influence if they are more inspired by truth and love, or if they decide to make their life more about the world. If you're going to do truth and love with other people, you're supposed to treat other people the way you like to be treated, and then you'd have to be inspired to be more authentically yourself. And if it's a romantic relationship that people are going to get in, if you're going to be in a romantic relationship, it should be based on truth and love. And love is to be just and fair and equal give and take and being authentic and loving. Well, there's some people that are going to turn their back on that because they just don't want to come out from behind their ego. And their ego can just be their more self-protective, defensive nature. So for some people like that, they just still need to heal. They have things and life experiences that they've gone through that they're still kind of hiding behind their more self-protective, defensive nature. And, Some are more immature than others. In tarot, we have the pages, we have the knights, we have the kings and the queens, the emperor, the empress, the hierophant, the high priestess. Some people really are still quite codependent, maybe, and still quite immature in their thinking, logic, and reasoning. And, you know, it's like people trying to present themselves. Can't quite equate it to the apple tree, but if an apple tree could go out and try to present itself like, no, I am like, you should envision me like a 25-foot tree that can make 500 apples. But really, they're like a 10-foot tree and can only make 100 apples. But the way it comes across as human beings is kind of like people going out in the world and trying to present themselves as much more stable or grounded or mature than they really are. And then people get in a relationship with them and they realize they're not who they say they are. They got a lot. They're not as being as authentic or balanced or just or fair or motivated by love as they might try to present themselves as being. And other people who have been in relationship with them eventually kind of saw the truth of it, and eventually some of those people moved on. And their own high vibe nature would wish, it's like their high vibe nature keeps communicating with them to do some of this work within themselves so they can move forward in life. But some people always keep indulging their more immature nature. And the Four of Swords of Libra energy, they think that's just and fair. I go like this because Libra is represented by the scales of justice. So, at anyone in their life, they have free will. And some people are like, nope, I don't want to work through my ego or my fear or my past pain and heartbreak or whatever. I'm inspired to keep indulging my more immature nature. I think that's just and fair. And the people who do that are most likely the more immature, bossy, controlling, prideful, egotistical, full of themselves, whatever type of people. They're most likely going to keep being that way. And the older they are, probably the more likely they're going to be that way. Some of us learned when we were children to work through some of these issues, and, eventually other people kind of put some old ways of being behind them and would be appalled if they acted in certain ways or behaved certain ways. Sometimes people who are a little more shadowy or immature, they could have thought that they didn't really have to quit, work through the issue. They just learned don't do that because people frown on it. So they kind of, within themselves, they didn't really do that work within themselves like some other people did. And that's high vibe Virgo energy. And then in the Hangman, that maybe I should look at life differently. If I keep indulging, if I'm moving forward with people in a job, friendship, or relationship, or even when I was 8 years old playing with other kids, right? That if I kind of more am inspired to be more about myself, there's probably going to be other people who aren't going to want to play with me, right? Even though they might like me. Well, some people kind of, if there was, just kind of through life, you kind of might see where you're kind of immature, or you're kind of fearful, or you're kind of full of yourself, or you're kind of bossy or controlling or whatever, right? And in the Hangman, you might kind of look at life from a different perspective and maybe try to see life from other people's perspective. And you might know that there was people in your life who did offer you that cup of love if in the Two of Pentacles you are willing to work more cooperatively with them from love. If some of the high vibe people in your life were offering you truth and love. But, That's the difference. Some people kind of realized, that's like kind of two cards here of the Hermit and the Hangman, of like being illuminated to seeing something you hadn't seen before. That if I'm not willing to get out of my ego and willing to see the truth of where I would benefit from being less bossy, controlling, immature, prideful, egotistical, self-centered, all about myself, that there's going to be, or being manipulative or being hurtful or being unkind, that other loving people who want to be in a relationship with me aren't going to keep staying in a relationship with me. Some people learn those lessons in life. Some people didn't. Some people just saw that people didn't want to be in friendship or relationship with them. And shadowy energy can be, they could either meditate on the truth, is what the Four Swords can talk about. It's kind of like, oh shit, that didn't work out the way I wanted. And they would meditate on the truth of it. But you have to be willing to see the truth of it. But some people who harness this energy in a more shadowy way, they want to keep hiding from the truth because they like doing things the way they do it, or being more about themselves. And they decide, I think I can juggle the truth. And in shadowy Knight of Cups can be where, and shadowy energy in general is kind of like, I think I can create an illusion about the type of person that I am. I still want to be more about me, but if I am outright more about me, people won't stay in a friendship or relationship. So that was their light bulb moment. And they kind of missed the point. And that can be someone who kind of lives more from their mind than their heart. The other people that they have more of a problem being in relationship with, the more high vibe people in all three of their air sign energies are more aligned with hope and faith and belief and love. But some of the other people in their air sign energy of themselves could be more about themselves. And when other people were healing and growing and maturing themselves and stopping certain behaviors and ways of acting or behaving, they could have thought, oh, is that what I'm supposed to do? I need to, even though this is still my truth, I need to maybe act like, oh no, that's not my truth anymore. I put that behind me just like other people did. I've changed, I've grown, I've healed, I've matured myself. And then they keep moving forward in life. But the truth is, they're still just really maybe more about themselves, some of those people. So they didn't quite learn the lesson. Virgo energy is about learning lessons, seeing the truth of things we keep hidden in the dark, where we might need to heal and grow and mature ourselves. And for some people could have grown up in families, which a lot of us did, where you kind of almost feel like, we're going to go out in public and you need to act like a good shoe or a good lamp. you know, for my ego and my image, you are supposed to behave. And sometimes, instead of working with kids all the time in a way and accepting that they're children, but wanting to have well-tempered or kind of behave children to the best that you can, you tell them maybe that we're going to go do this and hopefully this will all go well and maybe we can do something like this again. And I'm excited about it. I hope you're excited about it. But everybody does kind of have to, high vibe energy is about tempering your ego. You can't be loud or rambunctious or being immature or whatever. Everybody kind of has to be on their best behavior and, something like that. But I'm just saying, some people could have been brought up with people where some people were brought up with people where they weren't allowed to be more authentically themselves, and it was just to conform to the world, good for the ego and the image. That's the most important thing. And sadly, some of the people that people could have been raised by, and we don't have to blame the people they were raised by, because unless you know them well enough to know that that was the circumstances, people can do this all within themselves. And they could just be people that are more, I could be more just and fair, but some people are hiding. They're more stubborn and prideful and egotistical. Shadowy Pisces, shadowy Taurus, shadowy Libra, I guess. And that's what they love. That's what, you know, again, they could make their life more about themselves, more about the world, more about the ego and the image. And in a world of duality and free will, there's going to be probably 50% of the people at any time in the life that are kind of more tipped in favor and motivated and inspired by love. And knowing that you're supposed to treat other people the way you like to be treated, and you're supposed to be just and fair. And if you're a romantic relationship, it should be because of love. And then there could be 50% of the people that are like, I might want to be in a relationship, but I might want to more indulge in a relationship. Just kind of indulge my more immature nature in a relationship. But I don't really want to do love, and I really don't want to maybe be just and fair. And that there's some people that are more where it has to be, they think it's just and fair. They hide that they operate more from their pride and ego. And shadowy hangman can be, I refuse to look at life from any other perspective, or even anyone else's perspective, because I think the most important perspective is just my own in a shadowy way. And some people could be narcissistic, that's shadowy Scorpio. And some people are just very stubborn and prideful. Maybe they have some things about them in the Seven of Pentacles, like Ten of Pentacles would seem like you have long-term stability and security. Maybe people were kind of born with a silver spoon in their mouth, or maybe they've been kind of full of themselves all their life, and they could think, I have a certain status or image or charm or looks or family or social clout or image or status, that for some reason they could just think, I don't think I have to do things any differently. I think there'll always be other people in the world who are going out in the world to try to find other people to be in relationship with or friends with. And some people could think, well, I'll just wait till some of those things don't work out. And then if some of those things don't work out, some of those people will maybe come back and want to invest in me. So some high vibe people are willing to communicate their truth to people. And if I like you, I like you. If I think you're cute, I might tell you I think you're cute. They're willing to reach out. Just to reach out, the Page of Swords can be communicating. Just to reach out to someone, you'd have to work through, if you had ego issues, you'd have to work through those things. High vibe people are a little more comfortable within themselves. I could sit here in my ego about whatever, or I don't know what the big deal is. If I want to talk to someone and reach out to them, the pages are just these small gestures to people. Hey, how's it going? What's going on? Just to see what's going on. And some people could have done that. Well, sometimes shadowy people and people who do like to try to manipulate and control people want to be in a relationship with someone who they think that even if they turn their back on them, even if they act kind of stubborn, even if they seem to juggle, that some high vibe person will keep chasing after them. Well, if you show me you're willing to keep chasing after me in the face of everything, well, then maybe I'll get in a relationship with you because I think I can juggle you and I think I can manipulate you. And of course, high vibe people, you know, you don't necessarily think that, and that's not what you're thinking when you might be reaching out to people and wanting to be in relationship or friendship with them. You know, who knows what the hell other people think? You know, they can think whatever they want. You know, sometimes we get in relationships, we end up getting in relationships with those people. And, you know, the high vibe people offer them a cup of love, and some of them might come out of not really taking some action in their life, and they might kind of pick up their investment in that to kind of move forward with people. Well, then, with some of those people we could know, we end up saying friends with them for a really long time if it's just a friendship. For some, it could be a romantic relationship. Some of those people keep moving forward forever. But with some of the people, there might we might stay invested in them for quite a long time, and the loving people can keep being loving and encouraging, and the whole time these people are moving forward in it is always like, you know, it's kind of like, I'm not sure if the Seven of Pentacles can be about investing. It's like, I don't know if I want to invest in this or not. I could move forward with these people, or maybe I should go back over here. And, you know, and it could depend on how the different people in their life view life. You know, are you going to require me to kind of grow up and mature myself? And for some people, if that's a deal breaker, it's like, yep, you can go. I'm going back here. Are you going to require me to come out from behind my ego nature and my more self-protective defensive nature and be more authentically myself? No, I might go back over here. Are you going to require me to quit maybe being more about myself or more stubborn or more caught up in the world? Nope, I might go over here. You know, we can be in relationships with people for quite a long time because there's a lot of things to work out in a relationship. Because, you know, first of all, do we kind of like each other enough and whatever to want to keep even investing it past the initial stages? Well, you can like each other, there can be some attraction. And the Seven of Pentacles also in Taurus can be that you can have a lot of things in common about philosophies of life and how you view life and what you like to invest your time, energy, and effort into, hobbies and activities and entertainment things that you kind of like, no, I must go fishing every day of the week. Yeah, that's not going to work for me. Or I like going to the movies. I like to go bowling like once a year. You know, and the other person's like, oh my God, like I have to go bowling every weekend. It's like, both Friday and Saturday? uh, you know, the relationship probably isn't going to work out. You know, if you don't have more things in common, right? And then to be able to have a new beginning, we have to work through the Ten of Swords to come out with the one sword, and we have to work through the Ten of Wands to come out with the new Knight of Wands. And just to have these new beginnings, we'd probably hear kind of implied, we'd have to close out an old Ten of Pentacles. And high vibe energy is also about becoming independent of an old phase of life. And it could be other foundations. Sometimes people have other foundations in their life that they look to as a primary foundation in their life. And that is the primary foundation in their life. That could be their friend group or their original family, for example. but they want to be in romantic love relationships, but they still haven't become independent of that foundation to be inspired to live their more own authentic life, separate as an individual from that group. And some of the people that they could have as a primary foundation in their life could like them making them the primary foundation in their life. Yes, you can date people. Yes, you can marry people. But oh, by the way, if we ever like snap our fingers and say, get your butt back here, they will get their butt back there. So it's kind of like the people they date or could marry, those people are like a third party to this primary foundation because they have not closed out that of being in a more codependent relationship or making that group kind of the primary foundation in their life. They haven't become independent of it to stand up for themselves, that I am my own individual who has my own dreams and aspirations. I should be respected as my own individual, just like I respect you as being your own individuals. And some of those people haven't done that, and it doesn't matter how old they are. Some of those people can be old people, and they're still, their primary foundation is still their brothers or their sisters or their mom or their dad or something, right? They're just not very independent. And sometimes people find that out when they get in relationships with them. And it is people like trying to do both sides. Like, well, this is a primary foundation for me, and this is kind of viewing it as a primary foundation. But then sometimes you find out and you kind of see through the illusion, you know, if we're trying to move forward like this, but you know, it's different if you have a friend and you're just friends. You could be married, they could be married, or one of you is married, one of you isn't married. It makes sense that you are going to be a secondary foundation in relationship to their primary foundation, which should be their marriage and their family, right? But sometimes some people just aren't independent from their friend or family foundation to go live their more authentic life, and they have a struggle within themselves about becoming independent. And other people who get in relationship with them, it's kind of like, well, if these people kind of manipulate me and can play on maybe the love that I have for them, they're going to be like a third party in this relationship, and you have to let them manipulate you too. And some other people are like, but those people don't manipulate me like that. You know, I'm my own individual, and why do you let them manipulate you so much like that? But just like it can be other people, it can also be their fear more manipulates them. Their ego, their immature nature, their defensive nature, you know, all these different things that could manipulate them. And it also could be other people that people maybe still want to be in a relationship with. You know, people moved on from one relationship, but maybe they really hadn't moved on from it. And if that other person were to become free of that relationship that they were in or something, or they had an opportunity to get back in a relationship with that person, you know, then people find out they would still go back and get in a relationship with those people. So if some people, you know, if you were trying to move a relationship forward, I want to invest in this, I want this to move forward victoriously and successfully. I have detached from other relationships, and I am committed to investing in this relationship. And if the other people seem to be on that same page, you'd kind of think everybody would move forward in that way. But there can be a lot of reasons why people don't. You know, it could be like, I wasn't sure if this was my truth or not anyway. You might be more bold, brave, and confident. You might be more authentically yourself. You might have closed out a cycle and are ready to move forward in life differently, but I haven't. you might be ready to live life more going on an adventure, and I'm kind of more about conforming to the world. So there can be a lot of different reasons as to why. And those were a lot of different reasons as to why. We can all have at different times in our life thought we were another relationship didn't work out. We get in another relationship, and then we kind of hope that we wouldn't do something like that when we're older, and we'd hope that by the time we got in a more formal, committed relationship, that we had kind of grown and matured ourselves and kind of lived enough life and kind of seen how other people are living their life and some of the people we had been in a relationship with to really be ready before we commit to something to kind of be clear about our truth. There could be, as you're moving forward in your life and you've maybe communicated with some people and you're moving forward and whatever you're moving forward with, other people could be trying to get to know you just like you're trying to get to know them to see if you really are who you say you are. And if you're more just and fair and stable and balanced, because they could have gotten themselves in some situations with some people in their life too who created the illusion they were being authentic and that they were more stable and grounded and balanced and authentic and had character and integrity, and then they kind of found out later that those people weren't who they said they were. So now, even though people could be attracted to people because of kind of love for themselves, I might be attracted to people and people could be attracted to you, but out of love for myself and these hard lessons I've had to learn in life, for one, I might communicate to people to work together with them. Some people, it might have been a more overt message to someone like, where are you at? Where's things at in your life? Maybe we're on the same page. Maybe you would be somebody I'd be interested to see if we're on the same page now, or I met you and I'd like to get to know you better. It's one thing to communicate your truth, but then if other people seem to not be sure, kind of like if they want to respond to your message, even though, some of them could have reached out and responded, but then kind of turn their back to it and they're still doing this while you're doing that, it's kind of like, okay, well, there's a couple of options. Some people, you could have found out some people, they were already moving forward in a relationship, and then say you communicated with them while they in turn were moving forward, they in turn were willing to communicate with you. And people can be curious to know, well, where are you at? What's going on with you? And there could be a part of them that would almost like to take more action, but no, we all want to be clear here. I've been hurt, you've been hurt, we've all had friends that were crappy or whatever. Let's all take our time. But with some of the people, they could have originally reached out, or you could have reached out to them, but then that was kind of it. Well, if you were younger, that could have really bothered you and kind of kept you stuck. Doesn't that person want to heal a relationship with me? And part of you is like, gee, I would really like to try to work on healing this relationship and maybe moving it forward. But if they, if there was some communication, but then they're turning their back to it, it's like, well, I'm not going to chase people. I have spoken my truth. So I don't know what's going on with them. So I'm going to wish them peace and love. I'm going to get balance within myself, to keep investing in my truth, and I'm going to keep moving on in my life. I had reached out, communicated with people, then they have free will to do what they want to do. And who knows how long, if people have things that keep them stuck, like getting more balance within themselves, loving themselves, believing in themselves, that they may never work through it. That's where it's like, well, if you're not there and you're not ready or free or available, then I wish you peace, but I'm going to keep moving on. And then sometimes we have to wonder if it is like, if a person had more chased somebody, would it have worked out? Well, I think in that case, it could. I mean, if you have the ability and you're around them to talk with them just like you would anyone else, I mean, I would say to go ahead and do that. But it's one thing to make an overt, small communication to reach out, it's another thing to keep doing that. Because sometimes some people we might not realize are a little bit more about themselves. And if people don't do that, they don't want to be in a relationship with them. I am going to turn my back to you and see if you will keep chasing me, because I only want to be in a relationship with people who I think I can juggle. And if I don't think I can juggle you, then I don't want to be in a relationship. It's like, well, I spoke my truth in love that this is how I'm moving forward. And I guess if you want to juggle people, it will have to be someone else. Or maybe it is just something else and I don't know what it is, but until you tell me, I don't know. In the meantime, I've spoken my truth in love and I'm going to keep moving forward. So, up here in the top row, people had to work through, and our own shadow nature would like us to stay stuck. We get hurt out there. Let's just stay here. Let's keep, even if there's people offering me love. No, no, no. Let's just keep staying here and hiding from the world. Because there's a part of ourself also, our shadowy nature would like us to not be illuminated to the truth and maybe indulge ourselves more in the world and in our fear and our insecurity, and maybe get in relationships with people where it would be a relationship based more on those things, because then we wouldn't get hurt. But our high vibe nature says, and high vibe Scorpio is kind of like going on the roller coaster of life and going on this adventure. I want to go on this journey to learn all these lessons, and I know everything I go pursue isn't going to turn out the way I want. I'm going to go about it in the best way I can. I have learned all these lessons. I have grown and healed and matured myself. And I've learned to maintain balance within myself. And I've learned to invest and love myself. I'm going to keep doing that. I'm going to meet and communicate with other people while I keep doing that within myself. And the most important thing, I think, is maintaining balance within yourself. Because if you start to indulge poor behavior in yourself or in others, that's when it starts to get tipped out of balance. And I'm going to go live my truth and not compromise my truth and not kind of indulge in more immature, poor behavior. Scorpio, I am an emotionally complex human being. I don't want to get myself emotionally tangled up in some bullshit I shouldn't get tangled up with anyway, because then I just got to get myself back out of it. And if I do emotionally invest in people, that's hard. I'd rather keep people kind of in a friend zone. And if this isn't going to go anywhere more meaningful and significant and you want to be an immature player, you can go be an immature player with someone else. And I'll keep moving on to find someone who really is ready for a more deep, meaningful relationship. So, what did some people have to do? There's people in their life they could have invested in, some people they had invested in, but in order to move forward and not stay stuck about these wishy-washy people, they had to do this work within themselves, and they had to figure out, see what it was within them that would have made them keep staying in something like this or getting into it, because they don't want to repeat that. So they had to work through harnessing this energy in a more shadowy way and to harness it in a more high vibrational way. The Lover's card. So the Lover's card is Gemini energy, again, about our free will. I can love different people. This could represent all sorts of different people in my life. My adult child, brother, sister, mom, dad, people that I've known who've been friends since I've been young or whatever, and different people I've known throughout my life, and people in my neighborhood, and people at my job, right? There can be a lot of different people in my life I can have love for, but they also have their Gemini nature of free will. And some of those people I do know are quite more prideful, egotistical, stubborn, and immature. And I can still have love for them. I can still wish them the best. Do I want, if they were to communicate with me, say, hey, you want to come hang out with some of those people? No, not really. But you have a good time. You have fun. Hope that, whatever, I've been there, I've done that. Not interested maybe in doing that, but if you still like doing that, you go do that. And then there can be people in my life who I could have put a lot of more work and effort in to try to get them to work together with me in a more just and fair and balanced way. And it goes back and forth, Well, you can go through stretches where it seems like everything's going okay, and then they go do something kind of immature and stubborn and prideful again. And, we can extend more grace to family because they are part of our family, and that is the fact of life. But we could decide, I'm not going to go out of my way to purposely try to invest any more maybe into that relationship. If they would want to reach out, or even if it's at a holiday, fine, can I interact with them? I'm just not really interested in investing much more in myself. And if you feel like your efforts didn't bear fruit, you know, uh, why do I want to keep investing in someone where it's just, that at some point down the line, they're going to do something again. They just can't temper their immature nature, their egoic nature. So the big step is realizing I can love people and I cannot want to be around them. And I can keep my distance from those people. If they act in these more stubborn or shadowy or prideful ways, and, everybody has their illusions about what it means to be in a relationship. And in their mind, of course, they could think every way they've been and every way they've acted is just and fair. Well, I guess it's always just and fair if it's them acting that way. But if other people are to act that way, but apparently they think they should be able to get away with all sorts of bullshit, right? So it's like, you know what? If you're my family member, I can extend more grace to you. I don't need more people in my life that it's kind of like, the more periphery you are to me and you act like that, the less likely that I'm going to want to keep putting up with anyone's bullshit, right? But it's kind of funny when you go out in the world and, maybe a new person starts, or you get a new job, or you move, or whatever. And some of the people in that environment, they'll act in these ways wondering if you're going to indulge them in their more shadowy ways of being, because some other people who've been working with them, who've kind of had to put up with them more so than you've had to because you're new, maybe, or something. And you're like, yeah, no. Thank you for showing me who you are. But yeah, I'm not really invested in trying to get you to like me or work with me. If I have to work with you or in some community thing, that's fine. I will treat you like I treat anybody. Do I want to spend more time even trying to get to know you? No, because if you already, you're not 8 or 12 or 15 or 18 or 21, and we're all older, and you're acting in these more immature, whatever ways of being, thank you for showing me the truth of who you are. And yeah, no, I'm not going to want to invest in you more. And there might have been someone that you had love for, but still, if they're acting this way, and someone at one point that you wanted to invest in and maybe move forward with, that you thought could be victorious and successful, but they showed you they are not, don't want to be more authentic, not more inspired by love, still more immature, more about themselves, more about the world, more about someone else. Okay, so you are willing to detach from those people and cut them out of your life. And a hard thing I think can be for loving people is because in your Gemini nature, you think everybody's motivated and inspired by love. And we need to see the truth. Not everybody is. And some people never will be. Because probably 50% of the people at any time are kind of in their free will. They hide that they operate more from their ego. They're more egoic, worldly nature. And they think that's just and fair. So again, it can be, I don't want to do love. I get hurt doing love. I like to be in relationships, but it's kind of the illusion of a relationship. I kind of more indulge myself in the relationship, but I don't really authentically, emotionally more invest myself in people. And you saw some people weren't willing to do that, so you were willing to cut them out of your life because you do want more authentic, deep, meaningful relationships. So then, as you're moving forward, we have more cards that aren't showing themselves. And so there could be people who see that you could have quit investing in one thing, that you kind of went on this new adventure, and it seems to be working out pretty victoriously and successfully in some ways. And people don't understand because they didn't kind of see what was all happening. And part of it could be because this was things that you did internally within yourself. And here we go from the 1 wand to the 6 of wands. The difference is the 5 of wands. That by the time you kind of, people saw you again or you took some action, it was like 1 wand to the 6 of wands. It's like, and again, if you were to look at every wand, kind of like every pentacle, these different lessons that we've learned in life, it's kind of like, what the hell? How in the hell did you go from 1 wand to 6 wands? Well, it's because of these things that you did within yourself. And it started down here. Just like everyone else in the world, you had your fears of stepping outside your comfort zone. You wanted things that you had invested in to work out the way that you wanted, but they weren't. And you were seeing that they weren't. And you felt kind of stuck, even though there was people in your life that you loved and cared for and wanted to move forward with, and you were offering and trying to work with people to get them to move forward with you. But if some people can be, again, in the hangman, it's like, I refuse to look at life any differently. Kind of like, well, that's not a very balanced relationship, you know? And that's when you kind of find out with some people that in their philosophy of life, they just didn't tell people until those people kind of figure it out for themselves, that those people kind of juggled the truth. they're not really willing to work together with other people more cooperatively to bring a dream into reality. It's kind of more, well, they had their dream and you kind of might have had yours, but it's really going to be more their way. And, oh, well, that's not balanced and just and fair. And so you had to do this work within yourself. You had been investing in offering them love, but you wanted to move things forward a little differently. You didn't want to keep repeating this pattern. And so you went back and forth about if you wanted to keep investing in them and thinking about picking up your investment in them. And you offered love to yourself, to believe in yourself and believe in your dreams, to offer other people truth and love to move forward with you, kind of humbling yourself. But it's like, I want to feel proud of myself. I want to know I did everything I could to make this work and I can leave with a clean conscience. And if it got to be that those people kept not willing to work together with you more cooperatively, the sixes can talk about balance, and probably the eights can talk about balance, and the fours, but sixes in particularly. But the six would be made up of two people in three of wands energy. I want to take action to bring a dream into reality. I want to take action to bring a dream into reality. And we have the same dream and we want to work together. But it's that third wand. The two wands, can be I have a dream, and then why are you inspired to take that action? And to work together in a romantic relationship, it should be equally inspired by love. But again, the other person could be more, again, about how it benefits them, if it's good for their ego and image. Are you willing to indulge them? Are you willing to make it more about them? Well, all those go in the plus column. And if it ever gets to be where you kind of get more inspired within yourself to want a more just and fair, balanced relationship, where it isn't kind of going back and forth, but where everybody maintains balance to keep moving forward, well, then they might say, well, you can go. I'm going to go do this with someone else. And so it's like, okay, so you are willing to detach and no longer invest in someone that you had love for. And then we have the Eight of Wands, the Seven of Swords, and the Ace of Swords. And the difference between the 7 and the 1 sword is the 6 of Swords, which is I had a dream, but my dream can only come into reality if we're both motivated and inspired by truth and love. And if someone else's truth and philosophy of life is that, well, I'll just create the illusion it's love, but I don't really want to do love. Well, how can my dream come into reality with them? And so it was being inspired to kind of wrap your brain around all this. And you did take this time, which other people didn't see because it was work you were doing like within yourself, to just wrap your brain around the fact that there was some people you got in relationships with that you thought a dream was going to come into reality with them. And again, thinking if people are in relationships with people who are being like just and fair and loving and encouraging, wouldn't everyone pick that? But for some people, that's like the danger zone. I could get hurt doing that. And then for other people, they could have been like, well, I might like this, and this might be good for my ego and my image. But then some people, they're more materialistically motivated. And it's like, well, would I have, high vibe energy is that it's a balance of both. But when you're in high vibe energy, and you're listening to your more authentic, creative, inspired nature, what you could manifest and working with high vibe energy represented by God at the big picture, who knows what you could manifest. But some people kind of think they need to work more with things of the world. That's how you do it. It isn't listening to your more creative, inspired nature and hopeful, believing nature. And maybe it would have seemed very victorious and successful, but if they didn't think it would have enough status or image, or it wouldn't be more about them, or they couldn't be more immature. They had to maintain balance, and they really kind of like to not have to maintain balance. It's like, maybe I'll let you go and I'll go get in a relationship with someone who I think maybe I can be more immature with, or that I can juggle, or where I don't have to maintain balance, or maybe I can just be more immature or prideful or whatever. And so it was hard to kind of wrap your brain around, when we perceive people, and at one point in time, people could have been who they said they were. But anytime on our journey in life, we can slowly kind of drift our life off into the ditch. And for some people, it happened slowly. For some people, it could happen quick. But we're dealing with other people who are emotionally complex human beings, exploring the mysteries of life in Scorpio. And the things that manipulate them, the things that instill fear in them, things we didn't know were hidden beneath the surface. And it's kind of being inspired to work through it to get to the truth. And so you did all this time, I think, to get illuminated to the truth. And the truth is, everybody has free will and the people who want to be more just, more fair, act with character and integrity, more inspired by truth and love, would do that and do that. And the people who not so much, they don't do that. And so it's kind of working through this mental conflict about how we could have viewed people or how people were at one time, but that's not the truth now. And we have to deal with the truth of what is now, because again, some people slowly but surely can end up driving their life off into the ditch, and these other things become more important to them, and it's kind of like shadowy energy kind of clouds our judgment. And are we going to indulge people who want us to indulge them with their driving their life off in the ditch, And it's like high vibe energy is like, no, I'm going to be a good leader in the world. And though I don't want to pick up my investment in this, needless, if we keep indulging people in poor behavior, they have less incentive to change, right? And some of them were never going to change anyway. For some, it's just that the truth of who they really were that was hidden beneath the surface has been revealed. And we need to see the truth of it. Offer love to the situation, pick up your investment, love yourself, invest in your truth, stand up for yourself, and be inspired to keep moving forward in your truth. If that's their truth, then I guess they will maybe work through these issues and pick up their investment in it and communicate with you. And if it's not, and it's got a stranglehold on them, or that really is the truth of who they are, and the fact that you saw the truth and you left and you weren't willing to indulge them, that could be the end of it. Well, thank goodness, one less day of indulging someone in poor behavior is a good day. So you did all this work within yourself to work through your mental conflict and your inner conflict, and kind of being hurt and in your ego that some people were deceptive and manipulative. Some people were immature. Some people were prideful and stubborn. Some people thought they could juggle you and use the love that you had for them in order to manipulate you. And other people have had that happen to them, so they're trying to be careful about of getting to know people better, to not be deceived and manipulated. And even though they could be attracted to people and view people as someone they'd really maybe like to be in a relationship with, they're slowing their roll because wanting to really get to know people to see what really kind of more drives and motivates them because they don't want to be deceived and manipulated again. But going out in the world when you're ready, which some people could have been taking a lot of time to do this work within themselves, to wrap their brain around it, that, maybe when with some of the people I met, I was maybe more codependent. I maybe wasn't as comfortable within myself or confident within myself. I maybe didn't believe in myself or believe in my dreams. I wasn't maintaining balance within myself. And all those things now I know I have to do, which really anybody else can do whatever they want. But if I keep maintaining balance within myself, not indulging poor behavior in myself, keep investing in my truth and walking the talk, that prevents me from getting in relationships with people, impulsively kind of, and that would be something some high vibe people want to do. But they're loving and encouraging to other people to get to know them. And some other people that you might know, they're still at this stage. And until some of those people work through some of their issues. In the meantime, being a loving and encouraging person to people. But if there's people who are like, I'm not there yet, it's like, that's okay. You do you. I'm going to keep doing me. And we'll just go on this journey and we'll all see how it all plays out. But if someone's kind of not ready, I'm not going to get in a relationship with them either. Well, what's coming up that the high vibe people don't see coming? We have the High Priestess in reverse, the Star in reverse, and the Queen of Cups in reverse. Why? Because of the Ten of Pentacles. So, the Ten of Pentacles, like the Hermit, is doing this inner work because you wanted to get to the truth. And you maybe also wanted to close out a cycle because then you can have the new Ace of Pentacles beginning. I want to wrap my brain around all of this so I can close this out. And because you were willing to do that, the High Priestess can be where you kind of are sitting back and observing people, and that can kind of be this energy. I'm just going to sit back. I'm not going to take action, my normal things maybe, but I'm going to just kind of sit back and see how other people act and what action they take. And the High Priestess in reverse can be that the secret is kind of revealed. Because when you choose to invest in your truth and walk your talk, it gives other people the free will to choose to decide what they want to go do. And you could have seen the truth of some people's foundations, and that some people weren't who you thought they were. And you kind of saw how your dream couldn't come into reality with them. And you could have seen also that they're not very loving. I view the Queen of Cups as Scorpio energy. And you could have seen the truth that, you are willing to put in this work and effort within yourself to grow and heal and mature yourself, to get out of your ego, to offer, to work together with people in truth and love. And then you walked your talk. And while you did that, other people did what they did. And just, I think, like the truth was revealed to you, it could have been revealed to other people. So shadowy people who want to kind of cheat the justice system, they kind of are more about being indulged or being more about themselves or more materialistic, more prideful, more stubborn or whatever. But they don't want people to know that truth. But that can be part of the reason why they didn't move forward with some people, because with those people, they did have to invest in maintaining more balance and acting with character and integrity, being more about truth and love, or trying to act like they were when that maybe wasn't their truth. And when they had an opportunity to, and people said, that's fine, you don't want to do this, then you do what you want, I'm going to go do what I want. Then they went and did what they wanted, and they could have invested and gotten themselves into some relationships with people that they thought either that they thought were stuck, that they could juggle, that they thought would invest in them, that they thought would kind of be good for their ego or their image. And I just think, if nothing else, you saw the truth. But I think if you have some people in your life in common, kind of eventually the other people kind of see the truth too. And then it's hard for them, like, gee, I never viewed that person as being that kind of person. And, people can lie, shadowy people can lie and be deceptive and manipulative, trying to confuse people about the truth. It's like, you know what? The people who are going to fall more for the lies, and that's because of the type of people they are, some of them, and it wouldn't have mattered what the truth was. They would align with shadowy energy irregardless. So high vibe people aren't going to be in their ego about it. And I think you've learned the lesson. You've observed and watched enough from this whole experience to see through the illusion of people, no longer caught up more so in the world and certain people, no longer interested in being in relationship with certain people. And you're finally ready to maybe let that go and move forward in this new beginning. And while you're doing that, some of the other people are still repeating a pattern, because we'll all repeat an old pattern until we learn the lesson we were meant to learn from it. And you have seen that some people had not learned some of the lessons you thought they had. In the meantime, you learned 3 more, which can be you kind of freed yourself from kind of a unhealthy, kind of toxic or unjust, unfair kind of dynamic, and you've closed out that cycle and you're moving forward. And whoever those people are kind of gonna repeat this pattern with a different employee or a different friend or a different romantic relationship. So what's coming up for the people? And I think you're going to look victorious and successful in the world, very stable, abundant, and grounded within yourself because of these lessons that you've learned. And how you take those with you when you go meet other people. And you have truth and love, and you're very abundant in different ways that you have to offer other people. What's coming up for the people who harness a more worldly, shadowy Scorpio energy that they might not see coming? And you might be kind of surprised at some of the people that you thought would be more aligned with that, to see who isn't and to see who is. Just because when you keep maintaining your truth and walking your talk and treating other people the way you like to be treated, being just and fair and loving, there can be people that you had been friends with that they liked it better when you weren't more balanced within yourself and didn't love yourself and hadn't freed yourself from some more worldly viewpoints or ways of living life, because they still live their life that way, and then they don't kind of want to maybe be around you, because it kind of illuminates the difference between how you're living your life and still how they're living their life. And instead of dealing with and kind of doing this, well, why does that kind of bother me, to look at it, they don't want to look at it. So it's just to let you go, and then it kind of doesn't illuminate those differences, and they'll just go back to hanging out with some people who are still repeating some pattern. The 5 of Swords and the Karma card, which is like the Judgment card, and the reason is because of the 4 Swords. So what the shadowy people don't see coming, which could always kind of surprise them, is that other people really do heal. They do periodically decide to look at some of these things that keep them stuck. And instead of deciding, no, I can just ignore it and I'll just pretend I'm more high vibe than I am and operate more from my ego and shadowy energy, Other people periodically know that those things still bother them, whatever baggage it is that we carry around. And other people do decide to look at those things. I don't like these things continuing to manipulate me. And so those people do meditate on the truth. They see the truth, and then it sets them free. I'm not the same person I was before. If I had things that kept me stuck, past pain and heartbreak, fear, insecurity, defensiveness, my more immature behavior, my more stubborn behavior, these illusions I had about relationships, but things don't quite work out the way they want. Some people want to figure out why. And they're willing to see the truth that, well, maybe I am kind of immature, and maybe I do kind of think it should be about me, or maybe I'm kind of stubborn, or maybe I do have a fear of love, and why do, and they work through it. And then the people who work through it, judgment goes in their favor because they take action more in truth and love. And I think when you take action in truth and love, in high vibe energy of divine, you're in flow with the universe. You are also holding yourself accountable and holding other people accountable. And some of the shadowy people never want to hold themselves accountable. And then they have things and people in their life they don't want to hold accountable. And we just keep staying in denial of the truth. And since they do that and they've decided that's just and fair, let's just stay in denial of how the world manipulates us, and our ego manipulates us, and our fear, and our codependent nature, and our immature nature, and our lustful nature, or our greedy nature, or whatever. Let's all just stay in denial of it. Well, those people have to keep repeating a pattern over and over. And other people will repeat that pattern until it causes them enough mental conflict that it's like, why do I keep investing in this? Why isn't this working out the way I want? And they have to be willing to hold themselves accountable and deal with the truth, and then to take action on that truth. The other people might know that there's things that they don't like and that those things cause them mental conflict too. But they have mental conflict about speaking their truth and standing up for what they believe in, maybe with some people. Even standing up to their own shadow nature and saying, I have free will. I'm not going to let my shadowy nature and live more from my mind than my heart and belittle or berate myself and indulge my more immature nature. I'm going to grow up. And some people do that. And these people will have mental conflict that someone else decided to invest in kind of loving and believing in themselves to not stay stuck in a relationship with someone who has some healing to do, but they refuse to do it. So nothing ever changes. It's the same. Eventually people see it's the same thing over and over. Nothing ever changes because you'd have to work through something to see what doesn't work, to let that go. And the shadowy people don't ever want to see the truth of what doesn't work. And other people have a problem with it. And even if they could have love for them, you are unwilling to pick up your investment in maybe not wanting to see the truth that it should be love. And you keep thinking you can create the illusion of love, but not really do love. Well, it's kind of like trying to grow a garden together, but you put in real dirt and they want to put in like plastic pebbles that look like dirt. It's like, well, that doesn't, and fake water, act like they watered it, but they didn't. And the other person really is putting in real dirt, water, pruning, weeding. And the other person's like, but I don't really want to put in that work. Can't I just put in the fake dirt and say I watered it? And that I pulled the weeds, but I didn't? And ultimately, I think they'll end up being in relationships and surrounded by, and some of the people they have that they kind of align with are other people who also have mental conflict about the truth and holding themselves accountable. Well, those will be more people that they align with. and probably are willing to be in a relationship with them. I have a problem with the truth too. I want to get in a relationship to look like I have justice in the world, but I kind of juggle being loving. I kind of live more from my mind than my heart too. I think that's just and fair. And then I think, they will be judged as people who, shadowy Scorpio, it just seems more superficial and shallow. Looks like love, quacks like love. The other people are really inspired by truth and love. And, you can just see the differences between how different people live their life and being around them. And the people who are more like, hey, this is my kind of thing. Yeah, I'll be your friend. I'll be in, hang out with you people. And other people are like, oh my gosh, yeah, no, I can't do this. And they want to go hang out with people who are being more authentic. So there you go, Scorpio. I wish you peace, love, and joy. And we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.